Hello everyone! チャンネル登録ありがとうございます。今回はでる順パス単を全部読んでいきます。デルド A セクション1 Claim The arrested man claimed the police had mistreated him. Project The company has projected record sales for the next quarter. Expand The university has decided to expand its popular MBA program by 50 places. Address In his speech, he failed to address the criticism that had been aimed at him. The machine could detect the sign of a radiation leak. Evolve. The naturalists believe that humans evolved from less developed species of primates. Guarantee. The government guaranteed that it would compensate bank account holders. Implement. The policy proved impossible to implement, so it was abandoned. Weather. The automobile company weathered a period of record high oil prices. Justify. The university president tried to justify the raise in fees to the student. Convict. After lengthy trial, the businessman was convicted of fraud. Prioritize. The new prime minister said that he would prioritize spending on defense in order to protect the nation. Rebel. Finally, the army lost patience and rebelled against its own government. Oh, I can see the word. Ow! Fuel. The dismal economic news. Fuel. The dismal economic news only fueled the widespread dissatisfaction with the government. Sustain. Many people barely get enough food to sustain their health. Portray. Many feminists criticize the insulting way women are portrayed in popular movies. Manipulate. The new king was easily manipulated by his advisors into doing what they wanted. これちゃんと音聞こえてるのかな？ちょっと音出して。あ、聞こえてる。よいしょ。Okay, next is manipulate. The new king was easily manipulated by his advisors into doing what they wanted. Stimulate. The new king was easily The Economist says say the tax cut should stimulate the economy. Integrate. The student quickly integrate into life at their new school. Congress. In 1975, an act was passed by Congress that increased energy production and supplying in the country. Antibiotic. Doctors fear that the overuse of antibiotics will lead to increasing resistance of them. Amendment. I agreed to support their proposal if they would make minor amendments. Diversity. The diversity of the student background add much interest to classroom discussions. Plot. Army leaders were involved in a plot to depose the country's president. Trade. Advocate. The missionary is a well-known advocate of prison reform. Trade. The little boy had all the traits of a mathematical genius. The specialist provided a sociological perspective on problems of the inner city. Stem. The flowers in my garden die because parasites attack their stems. Component. Many of the engine's components were manufactured abroad, so the tariffs affect domestic price too. Balance. He checked his bank balance on the internet. Inmate. Inmates in a local prison riot and took several guards hostage. Extinction. The rapid extinction of the dinosaurs remains a scientific mystery. Proponent. The pop star is known as an ardent proponent of vegetarianism. Uprising. The simultaneous outbreak of a number of uprisings spelled the end of a colonial rule in the country. Perception. Perception involves more than merely the psychological aspect of the sense. Habitat. Destruction of their habitat had dramatically reduced the animals' number. Bias. The judge was accused of showing a bias toward the defendant. Microbe. Many diseases are caused by microbes that are invisible to the naked eye. Archaeologist. We most of our knowledge of ancient civilizations to archaeologists. Mutation. The new flu was said to be a mutation of an earlier virus. Attribute. Does your pet dog have any special attribute by which it can be recognized. Nanoparticle. Scientists have discovered many exciting uses for nanoparticles, such as adding them to fuel to increase their powers. Regime. The country was ruled by a military regime led by a general. Algorithm. Some specialists fear that we are trusting computer algorithm much more than we should. Vet. Taking a pet to a vet for treatment can turn out to be far more expensive than we expected. Dispute. The government said it could not interfere in an individual dispute. Migration. The migration of young people to the cities is a growing problem. Labor. The wages of farm laborers have been falling for many years, leading to great poverty. Prohibition. One of the unexpected effects of prohibition was the damage it did to the American economy. Sorry, I'm wrong. Reservoir. The heavy rainfall caused the reservoir to overflow and flood the surrounding countryside. Founder. The company's founder thanked the employees by giving everyone a bonus. Inhabitant. The inhabitants of the nearby village were told to evacuate the wildfire spread. Commitment. Some men find marriage too big a commitment to make. Rebellion. After losing the war, a series of rebellions broke out around the city. Around the country. Capitalism. The reintroduction of capitalism into the once socialist country naturally encountered some resistance. Cracked. Examination of the building revealed several large cracks in the water pipes. Hydrogen. Many experts believe that hydrogen will become the most common clean fuels for cars in the future. Slavery. Although Britain had benefited greatly from slavery, it nevertheless decided to abolish it in 1834. Warfare. The number of people dying in warfare had steadily declined since the end of World War II. Criterion. We had trouble deciding on the primary criterion for a promotion decision. Asset. The company's most important asset was its loyal workforce. Conviction. He defended his position with absolute conviction. Corruption. Governmental corruption is evident in most countries, but it is much worse in some than others. Perhaps the greatest legacy of the post-war labor government was the National Health Service established in 1948. Offender. The 3 strikes law punished offenders with a life sentence after 3 convicts. During World War II, all sides used extensive propaganda to try whip up hearts of the enemy. Republics. Today, the greatest majority of countries are republics, with only about 20% remaining of monarchies. With the increasing sophistication of telescopes, astronomers have been able to discover many new stars and galaxies. Humanity. Although humanities degrees are often seen as less practical, they still offer a good chance of employment. Immunization. Generally speaking, immunization rates need to be above 80% to prevent outbreaks of a disease. Icelander. As the Finnish industry declined, most of the Icelanders led to look for work on the mainland. Vent. A blockage in vents rendered the air conditioning system ineffective. Incentive. The birth of his first child was an incentive for him to settle down and work harder. Prosecutor. The prosecutor did his best to show the witness was lying. Potential. The businessman found that the potential profit from the investment would be huge. Indigenous. The indigenous people of many countries have been persecuted or killed. Enormous. The millionaire lived in an enormous house on the edge of town. Widespread. The healthcare reform bill provoked widespread opposition throughout the country. Inevitable. We accept the fact that our defeat was probably inevitable. Extinct. Thought far from extinct, sea turtles are seriously endangered. Electoral. Electoral considerations led the government to delay the tax rise. Subsequent. While his first novel was a bestseller, his subsequent ones sold poorly. Controversial. The controversial new play was banned after 3 performances. Disrupted. Recognizing and investing in disruptive companies can lead to very high returns on one initial outlay. Robotic. These days, robotic surgery is becoming more common, although it's remained much more expensive than traditional surgery. Toxic. The government is finally pressuring industries to reduce toxic waste. Domesticate. Among domesticated animals, cows were only one the first to be adopted by human beings. Left wing. A left-wing terrorist group claimed responsibility for the explosion. Okay. Ultimately, the woman said she ultimately wanted to work as a lawyer. Initially, he enjoyed the class, but then it began to bore him. Genetically, the ethnic group was genetically susceptible to certain allergies. 디르도의 섹션 2 Cast. Defense lawyer did his best to cast doubt on the witness testimony, but without much luck. Supplement. The university professor supplements his main income by publishing articles online. Outweigh. The school concluded that advantage to co-educational outweigh any possible disadvantages. Implant. A tiny chip was implanted in the animal so that they could track it. Enhance. His recent novel will certainly enhance his literary reputation. Revise. The science textbook has to be revised every few years. Contend. A number of professors were contending for the post of dean. Execute. As soon as they were given funding, they began to execute the plan. Undermine. The numerous contradictions in her argument undermine her main point. Administer. The new literacy program will be administered by a group of NGOs. Suspend. Before an argument could be reached, the parties suspended negotiations. Cease. The moment he ceased speaking, the audience burst into applause. Assault. The prisoner was punished for assaulting one of the guards. Lobby. The tobacco companies lobbied against the new regulation. Torture. The soldiers were convicted to torturing the terrorist suspects. Envision. He envisioned a future where all the world nations were at peace. Govern. As the independence movement grew, the colonial power found it more and more difficult to govern the colony. Reconsider. The university begged the professor to reconsider his resignations, but he absolutely refused. Enzyme. Enzymes are catalysts for many significant biochemical reactions. Faculty. His intellectual faculties are still acute despite his advanced age. Predator. The introduced species had few natural predators, so it spread rapidly. Execution. Prisoners awaiting executions were kept in a separate part of the prison and given certain privileges. Implication. The discovery of the remains had significant implications for the history of human evolution. Implication. The discovery of the remains had significant implications for the history of human evolution. Interpretation. The higher court disagreed with the lower court's interpretation of the law and consequently overturned its decisions. Extend. All thought that political advertisements attract attention. It is hard to say what extent they contributed to his victory. Pyramid. The pyramids of an ancient Egypt are the most famous, but similar structures are found in other civilizations. Midwife. In the past, babies were usually born at home, often with help of midwives. Hypothesis. For years, the scientist theory was dismissed as nothing more than hypothesis. Canal. Britain has an extensive network of canals, but nowadays they are mostly used for leisure purposes. Communism. The political and economic weakness of communism were evident long before the collapse of the Soviet Union. Compensation. Only a small amount of compensations was paid to those who were displaced by the expressway. Consideration. Opponents of the plan for a new airport say that not enough consideration had been given to its negative effects. Corpse. After graduating from university, she volunteered to work for the US Peace Corps in Africa. Environmentalist. The construction of the dam was opposed by environmentalists because of the damage it would do to nature. Nationalist. The government was weakened by constant criticism from nationalists, who urged a more aggressive foreign policy. Offspring. The scientists gave the drug to mice and then checked their offspring for any genetic disorders. Variation. In general, variation in vegetable prices are linked to the season and weather. Veterans. The veterans march in a parade with their family's member in honor of the service during the war. Eyewitness. Apparently reliable accounts by eyewitness frequently turn out to be inaccurate or misleading. Tactic. The violent tactics employed by the police to disperse the protesters were widely criticized. Altruism. Donating one's organs in regarding as an act of pure altruism. Pesticide. Many people blame pesticides for the disappearance of the bees. Commodity. The most important commodity in this century would be information itself. Accusation. The accusations were dismissed because of a lack of evidence. Density. Areas of high population density are often less damaging to the environment. Next. Mantle. The Earth's mantle lies below the crust and makes up over 80% of the planet's volume. Homeopathy. Although many people believe that homeopathy is effective, most doctors dismiss it as worthless. Obstetrician. As the birth rate falls, the number of obstetricians needs in hospital also falls. Detection. Specially trained dogs are often used to help in the detection of illegal substances. Parasite. Doctors finally identified the parasite that had caused the epidemic. Thesis. My students are working hard to finish their graduation thesis before the deadline. Coverage. The newspaper was criticized for its biased coverage of political issues. Resurrection. Jesus' resurrection is a central tenet of Orthodox Christian belief. While atoms consist of subatomic particles, molecules consist of an arrangement of atoms. Sway. He said that the finance ministry was still under the sway of outdated economic theories. Activist. Animal rights activists have organized many protests against the ill treatment of animals on farms. Certification. Those who leave education with no certification usually find it difficult to gain stable employment. Doctors often keep patients in the hospital after surgery in case complications arise. Consensus. Despite the scientific consensus that global temperatures are rising, some politicians continue to deny this fact. Hostage. During the police operation against the terrorists, one of the hostages was accidentally shot and killed. Innocence. The evidence conclusively proved the innocence of the accused man. Journalism. Although he studied journalism in college, his aim was to become a novelist and not to work in media. Landlord. Conflict between tenants and landlords are common, especially when the latter raise rents. Larva. One of the main enemies of trees are insect larvae, which feed on them and often kill them. Playwright. The man was not only a popular playwright but also a successful actor. Relief. The cold spell, although it brought heavy rain, was a relief from the extreme summer heat. Representation. Illegal immigrants have no political representations, so it is difficult for them to defend their interests. Senator. The new governor had previously served as one of the state's senior senators for many years. Toxin. Many wild mushrooms contain toxin, so it is important only to eat those are known to be safe. Captor. The prisoner tried to persuade his captors to release him, but to no avail. Irradiation. Many consumers object to the irradiation of food, even though studies show to be safe. Vulnerable. The AIDS virus makes its victim vulnerable to normally minor illness. Contemporary furniture often values interesting design over comfort. Crucial. The president is now facing the most crucial decision of his career. Forensic investigations have become increasingly sophisticated. Colonial. The Asian country colonial past was evident in French-style building in the capital city. Naval. The country growing naval power has alarmed its neighbors, who fear that their own shipping may be threatened. Sophisticated. Her manner is charming but not what would call sophisticated. Archaeological development in DNA analysis are allowing archaeological theories to be tested against other forms of evidence. Diplomatic. Despite frenzied diplomatic negotiations, the two sides were unable to reach agreement and went to war. Literally, the famous novelist had not shown any literary talent before reaching middle age. Catholic. Although Britain is a large Protestant country, it has had a number of famous Catholic writers. Right wing. A group of right-wing politicians accused the socialist governments of betraying their own nations. Dominant. Gorillas usually live in groups led by one dominant male. Legitimate. Although not well articulate, the student demand were legitimate. Tremendous. This was the tremendous sound of an explosion nearby. Cognitive. The test was designed to measure a child's cognitive development. Architectural. They visited the magnificent cathedral, which was a medieval architectural masterpiece. Influential. The physicist was one of the most influential thinkers of our time. Pharmaceutical companies are often suspected of putting profit before the health of patients. Okay. Ironically, the rapid buildup of weapons ironically led to the very war they were designed to prevent. Inevitably, the planned construction of a nuclear power station inevitably led to conflict with conservation. Consequently, funds were low and consequently the annual picnic had to be cancelled. いいね、ありがとうございます。デルド A、セクション3。Underestimate. The president had clearly underestimated the extent of hostility voters felt about his politics. Trigger. The economic turmoil in Southeast Asia may trigger chaos elsewhere. Diminish. Her pain diminished after she took the medicine the doctor prescribed. Reinforce. The artist had to reinforce the foundations of his latest buildings. And next is abolish. Most advanced countries abolished the death penalty decades ago. Exonerate. As a result of the trial, he was exonerated of all the charges. Perish. The explorers say that he would reach he wa- the explorers say that he would reach the North Pole or perish in the attempt. Halt. The weary climbers decided to halt for a brief rest. Extract. Researchers are continually extracting new medicines from tropical plants. Decay. The valuable wooden furniture had been left to decay. Resume. Classes will resume about a week after the New Year holidays. Cultivate. As farmers began to cultivate crop for the market, they ceased growing vegetables for their own use. Depict. Many people objected to the negative way in which the national hero was depicted in the movie. Entitled. Under the library regulations, students are entitled to borrow up to 3 books at a time. Lease. Leasing a car seems cheap at first, but it usually ends up more expensive than purchasing one. Oversee. The young manager was sent to China to oversee the construction of factory there. Regained. After years in opposition, the Social Democrats finally regained power from the conservatives. Comprise. The research team was comprised of a physicist and 2 chemists as well as a mathematician. Dismantle. The new recruits were taught how to dismantle and clean their guns. How did we clean 2 guns? Okay, next. Infer. He inferred from the professor's remarks that he had failed the class. Deploy. America responded to the threat by deploying aircraft carriers to the region. Ignite. Fire experts determined that the fire had been ignited by an electric spark. Methane. Methane, like carbon dioxide, is a greenhouse gas and it contributes greatly to global warming. Rodent. Rats are just one kind of rodent, a mammal group that includes thousands of species. Enforcement. The government ordered a stricter enforcement of the law to prevent any further incidents. Peer. Children at a certain age are more influenced by their peers than by their parents. Fortunately, I did not know he had been convicted to forgery when I accepted his personal check. Agenda. The president had drawn up an impressive agenda of issues to discuss. Contamination. The accident at the chemical plant caused massive environmental contamination. Composition. An analysis of the chemical composition of the rock indicate that it was largely made up of caliculazen. Constituent. The member of parliament made himself available to his constituents every Saturday morning. Counselor. Over the summer vacation, he worked as a counselor to environment to Over the summer vacation, he worked as a counselor to children with psychological problems. Court. Over the summer, a group of senior army officers was accused of plotting a coup against the government. Philosopher. The ideas of ancient philosophers remain surprisingly relevant today. Psychiatrist. Most psychiatrists today use drugs as part of their treatment of mental ill patients. Socialist. Socialist is in general belief that states should play a large role in the running of the economy. Specification. When the new engine was delivered, it turns out not to meet the required. Stimulus. The central bank announced that it would inject a strong fiscal stimulus into the economy. Stockpile. The police discovered a secret stockpile of weapons hidden by the terrorists. Watershed. Ecologists were concerned that diverting the river course would affect the watershed. Premium. He earned a handsome premium as payment for his services. Myriad. There were a myriad of famous names at the highly socially wedding. Morality. The charity made great efforts to decrease infant mortality among the poor. phase. He was very lucky that his illness was detected in early phase. Tenure. American university professors must earn tenures to ensure their jobs. Quota. Each student was given a quota to how many boxes of cookie they should sell. Assessment. The school is now undergoing a formal assessment for accreditation. Drink water. Okay. What is next? Intervention. The police intervention prevented a riot. Alliance. The countries form a temporary alliance against their trading neighbor. Projection. The projection of future profits turned out to be too optimistic. Scheme. The boys came up with a scheme to take revenge on the teacher. Bid. The athlete bid to set a new world record for the high jump failed miserably. Next is brutality. Wartime propaganda were frequently emphasized the brutality of the country's enemies. Okay, next is conquest. The conquest of England by Normans had a profound effect on the subsequent history of the country. Correction. He checked the student translation and made a number of corrections in red ink. Crust. The outer layer of the earth is known as the crust and is relatively thin. Hostility. At first, many of the migrants encountered intense hostility from the native population. Imprisonment. The mind gradually deteriorated after decades of imprisonment. Initiated. The local government began the meetings as an initiative designed to welcome newcomers to the town. And next is injection. Most vaccines are introduced by the body through injections provided by a doctor or nurse. Manipulation. Many people are concerned about the manipulation of public opinion by foreign governors. And next is mate. Male animals often attempt to attract mates by putting on ritual displays of aggression. Although the politicians stress the value of traditional morality. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. Okay, morality. Sorry. Although the politicians stress the value of traditional morality, his own private life was far from morality perfect. Reliance. One of the side effects of the IT revolution has been an increased reliance on electricity. Sensitivity. The film was criticized for its lack of sensitivity to victims of violent crime. Sentiment. Public sentiment towards the refugees quickly shifted from compassion to criticism. 最後までご視聴ありがとうございました。チャンネル登録と高評価お願いします。じゃあ、もう行って。